Hi, this is Les-Levine, the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Ohio sports. It's not baseball or basketball that has a plan to return to action, but football apparently does. Here's the problem with that. The real voice of truth and reason, Dr. Anthony Fauci, apparently doesn't think it's a good idea. According to the doctor who's been on the job since 1984, the players are in such close contact in each and every single play that it's the perfect setup to spread the virus. If there is contact between an infected player with anybody else, chances are good the two players will then shed the virus off on everybody they touch. Multiply that times every play in games and in practices, and it's a recipe for disaster. We've got Bud Shaw on coming up. More Sports and Les-Levine is on the air. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les-Levine, it's a Tuesday night. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les-Levine into its 24th consecutive year, seen exclusively and powered by cleveland.com. Tuesday night means Bud Shaw is with us. Bud, from a remote location. How are you, Bud?
I want to thank you for not using the segue I thought you were going to use, which was, speaking of disasters, we have Bud Shaw coming up. So appreciate that.
No problem. People were tugging on my sleeve and say, "Come on, say it. Come on, say it." But I didn't say it. What's new with you?
I'll get you, Brian. I'm sure he was the one behind that.
What's new and exciting in your life?
Not too much. I was looking with some interest over concerning the talks that baseball owners and players are soon to have, and reading as much as I could about it. And it sounds a lot more complicated than everyone just saying, boy, we don't want to lose the season. Let's get back there by July 4th.
What's the sticking point here?
Well, the sticking point, I think, Les, is no surprise to anyone, is going to be money. Owners are seeing their revenues drop, obviously. Players are seeing their salaries already prorated by about 52% or whatever, if in fact they play an 82-game season. But I think it's the owners would like a 50-50 split of all other revenues. And that has never flown with the baseball union, and I'm not sure it will this time. No, especially when the concern for them is that they start up, they're the ones taking the risk out there. They're the ones that are sharing locker rooms and shower rooms and baseball fields and maybe dugouts. We don't know how they're going to try to do it. But so I think that's part of it, is just the concern over why should they give more money away when they're the ones that are being asked to take the health risks in this situation.
Right. Last night on the show, we talked about the baseball situation and how it's going to work and what happened. Some news came out on Francisco-Lindor that we talked about last night, and that is it looks like the Indians have been a little proactive in trying to get him signed to an extension, but Lindor and his agent don't want any part of it. They want to play out the string as far as free agency is concerned. And I said, well, it's just time to cut bait on this situation with Paul Dolan. He's not going to get him to sign, and the fans are just going to bring up the cheap stuff. And that isn't fair to Dolan if the case is what I just stated that it was.
Yeah, I can't say I disagree with your take on that. It seems to me that the reason you would have kept him is that you felt you had a really strong chance this year of winning with him, and conversely, a much lesser chance of winning without him. With more teams, the proposal is that 14 teams will be in the playoffs.
Yes.
I don't know how
make the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know if that changes things or not. I just know that now you're down to half of this season that you could even have Lindor, and then you probably would be looking to trade him anyway at some point in the offseason next year, right? So I think if the opportunity presented itself, and I really don't know what the frequency of trade talks are in baseball these days, I wouldn't imagine that they're plentiful, with so much indecision going on with how this season's going to play out. I could see where if the opportunity presented itself, they would deal him and probably should deal him.
Well, yeah, and in the case, I would think he's tradable for 1 year. I'm not sure anybody wants to sign him for an 8 to 10 year deal at this point, the way the economics are.
Yeah, I didn't even think it from that end, but that makes sense too. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, we assume that this is going to be put behind us at some point, and that things will go back to normal. But will they? I don't know. In a town like Cleveland, where they've struggled to fill the ballpark, comparatively to some of the more popular and bigger market teams in the league, is Indians' attendance ever going to be more than it was last year?
No, but they would have eliminated the April-May portion of the schedule, so maybe that,
True. Yeah.
They figured out a way to get their attendance average up.
Got rid of the cold weather games for sure, but you just wonder what the new reality is going to be for teams like in this market. I mean, we often talk about the baseball demographic as being, people more closer to your age and my age, less than the 25-year-old customer. So, are older people going to feel comfortable going to baseball games in crowds over the next few years? Maybe a year from now, there'll be a vaccine, there'll be treatment, and everybody will be walking around without a mask and not even thinking twice about it. But right now, how could you sign Frankie Lindor to a $380 million deal, whatever it might be?
See how you can. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. In my Voice of Truth and Reason commentary a few moments ago, I talked about Dr. Anthony Fauci and what he had to say about football, and it's not what football fans want to hear. I can tell you that. According to Dr. Fauci, the problem with the virus shedding is that if I have it in my nose area and it sheds, and I wipe my hand against my nose, now it's on my hand, and I touch my chest or my thigh, then it's on my chest, or football players on every single play, and that's the perfect setup for spreading. I would think that an infected football player on the field, a middle linebacker, a tackle, whoever he is, as soon as they hit the next guy, the chances are that the shedding the virus will be all over that person also. I just the way that thing spreads, I just don't know how you can do that. But that's Dr. Fauci.
I can't remember if you and I talked about this. I think we did. You can ask professional players to make a decision on something like that, and they can decide whether it's worth the risk, whether the money makes it worth the health risk, and certainly their extended families would also be, a consideration in there. Can you ask college kids to go do the same thing for
No, because all they're making is playing for the honor of their school and to get a letter, but they're not playing it because they're not 100% of them will be going pro. So they don't have that money factor involved in their decision.
Right. So they're not being compensated money-wise right now the way an NFL player would be, and certainly I don't think they're not represented by a union that if some players felt their health was at risk and decided they didn't want to play, they might very likely be pushed aside and another high school All-American put in their place. So there's a lot of things to consider. I know everyone feels like football, because we just came off the draft and we saw things, people getting excited about their team, who their team picked, and we saw the commissioner, and we heard people talking about the schedules released. We hear all that and we think just logically the season's going to happen. I think there's a lot more to consider before we get down to that path.
Bud Shaw is with us, 216-575-0403. If you want to talk and chime in tonight, you're more than welcome to do that. Did you know the Ohio Lottery has paid out over $1 billion in winnings over the last 6 months? People are winning in record numbers, and winning is happening all around the state of Ohio. Play an Ohio Lottery game and play it today. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine, with new content posted each and every day. We ask the question, you respond, and you put it on the air that night. We'll take a break. We'll come back in a moment. More Sports and Les-Levine continues with Bud Shaw exclusively on cleveland.com.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Lesmerises, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Let's check out birthdays for today. Yogi Berra, the great catcher from the Yankees, born on this date. Otto Graf of 1947. George Carl, former Cavs coach. Sweet Lou Whitaker, Tony Hawk, and Steve Smith, all born on this date, the 12th of May. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Bud Shaw is with us. Bud, I want to turn.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I got to ask you. I'm got to call you out on one of these birthdays.
Okay.
Can you name the sport that Tony Hawk is known for?
Skateboarding.
Wow. All right. I'm impressed, Les. I stand corrected.
Was that close?
It's dead on. Yeah. Speaking of demographics, that sport's wasn't created for guys like you and I. I just thought maybe you might have gotten.
I did the safe thing. Tony Hawk, Brian, tell me a little bit about him. That's why we have Brian, and that's why we pay him the big bucks to help us.
The only reason I know is that I got asked to cover the X Games one year.
Well, I knew this particular one. I couldn't tell you who the second best or third best is.
Well, either could I, and I covered it.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. You can email us during the show at reallesslevine@gmail.com. Turning to football, I've noticed a trend here that all the people who were down on, not all the people, but a lot of people were down on Baker-Mayfield from what he did last year and what they expect him to do this year. Now all of a sudden, all the national stuff seems totally positive about him. You want to help explain that to me?
Yeah, I think what we have seen is a transition from turning the TV on every Sunday and seeing Baker not performing well, going to a commercial and seeing him, turning out the lights at First Energy Stadium checking the smoke alarms there.
Pretty funny.
He seemed to be, yeah, and people resented that. The people I know who were fair, I think unfairly, people were saying, "Oh, look at him, he's too busy cashing in on his celebrity and his success from his rookie year to put a lot of work into this season." And while I do think he's had a bit of a revelation that it's going to take a lot more work to keep getting better in this league, I thought that was kind of unfair assessment of him. He certainly wasn't doing those commercials during the season and taking time away from his preparation.
Wow.
I just think now people have had some time to look back at it. Again, could be unfair, but people are saying, well, he's going to have better coaching now. And he didn't have good coaching last year. And now look at the talent around him. It can only get better from here.
Right. You remember several years ago when Colt McCoy was here and Romeo Crennel, and Crennel had a pizza endorsement before he ever showed up at training camp. And I think that Colt McCoy had a car commercial long before he ever took a snap at Berea. Do you remember all that? And there was a little unhappiness with that also.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those towns where, they want to see you prove yourself before, you act like you already arrived.
Right.
And we saw what Baker Mayfield is capable of, I think, at the end of his rookie year. And if I had to bet one way or the other, I would bet we would see a closer facsimile this year to that Baker Mayfield than we will to the one that we saw last year, who looked like his fundamentals were off. It looked like he was heavier than he needed to be. He wasn't moving as well, and certainly he wasn't as accurate as he was his rookie year. So I don't know, how old is he? 24. 25?
Yeah, I think he might be 25 by the time the season starts.
So I mean, I wouldn't sell Baker Mayfield stock right yet. I think he's still capable of being a good quarterback in this league.
Well, there's lots riding on it for him personally, the team, the salary cap, and all that. This is just a huge year for him. And if he repeats last year, that signals a lot of trouble for the Browns.
Yeah, I think, given if not everyone will be healthy, there'll be injuries, obviously, if they have a full season. But given the guys that are around him now, it's like they doubled down almost. They added another good tight end. They still have two, what can you say about these guys? They're both of them are all pro caliber running backs. Same with wide receivers. If we get to the end of this year and people look and Baker Mayfield's season has been disappointing under Kevin-Stefanski, then I think there'll be some real concern in this organization. You certainly wouldn't be in a rush to sign him to a long extension.
No, and you've got at least Case Keenum is there as opposed to some rookie backups, so they have that going for them. Pete Smith of Sports Illustrated talked about Baker's downfall last year. The Browns hired Freddie-Kitchens as head coach, whom Mayfield was fond of from their success together in 2018. Unfortunately, Kitchens hired Ryan Lindley to be the quarterback's coach. Lindley has enjoyed success helping quarterbacks prepare for the NFL draft as a private coach, but he simply wasn't ready for this job. The drop-off from ken-zampese, the quarterback coach in 18, to Lindley in 19 was significant. Baker did not look nearly as prepared for games. Other factors as far as Pete Smith is concerned from Sports Illustrated, he says Freddie-Kitchens' play calling, Beckham and Landry played hurt, and Higgins and Njoku were lost to injury early, and the Browns couldn't find a good replacement for Kevin Zeitler. So that goes into it. And then he talks about 2020. This is Pete Smith from Sports Illustrated. Heading into the 2020 season, the notion that this is a make-or-break season for Mayfield is overstated. He can't play like he did last year, but everything about last year was out of character for Mayfield. Any notion that that's a similar situation as Mitchell Trubisky was last year for the Chicago Bears is difficult to take seriously as the idea that there's any room for a quarterback competition in Chicago. It's now interesting, the heat or the change of attitude about Mitchell Trubisky is coming hot and heavy. It's almost unanimous in Chicago or when talking about the Bears.
Yeah, and I think in part because they haven't seen that kind of stretch from Trubisky that we saw from Mayfield his rookie year.
Right.
Trubisky, I always thought was a real reach at that high in the draft. I was not. I mean, remember that I think there was a conversation going on about whether was that Miles Garrett draft? Do you remember
the choice for who?
When Trubisky came out? Did he come out the same year as Garrett?
Yeah. Trubisky's played 3
So
years.
I know that there was talk that there was a difference of opinion in the organization that the coaching staff wanted Garrett, and that some people thought it was time to get that quarterback up high. I never thought that Trubisky was the guy that they should have done that for. I think Pete makes a lot of good points there. I wouldn't put Mayfield in the same, oh my God. In Chicago, I think it's like they don't think Trubisky's their guy. And I'm not suggesting that a less than stellar season from Mayfield would cause that same reaction in the Browns organization. But certainly if he has another season like he did last year, I think it might. I just don't believe that will happen. I know somebody who will go unnamed who thought that whether Zampese deserved credit for what he did, they thought that the Lindley hire was just made Baker Mayfield too comfortable, and they saw some of the same stuff in the wide receiver room with the college coach of Landry and Beckham being on board.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just not every coach has to be Bill Belichick and hold every player accountable every minute of every practice, but you do need, especially for young players like Mayfield, you do need that feeling that somebody's pushing them. And I'm not sure that was there at all last year.
All right, so the Bleacher Report asked its people to name, on every team, to name a breakout player for this year. Gary Davenport picked Jedrick-Wills-Jr. After a missable 2019 season that included struggles at the tackle position. The Browns made big changes at that spot in the offseason. Wills ostensibly will flip to the left side after playing right tackle for left-handed signal caller Tua. For Baker Mayfield to bounce back this year, he needs better blocking ahead of him. Willis is the type of NFL-ready prospect who should make an immediate impact, and if he does, fans in Cleveland who worship Joe Thomas will gladly embrace him. You like that call by Gary Davenport?
Well, I have a hard time thinking of an offensive lineman as a breakout player, I guess, but I would probably say Austin Hooper, and because I think that this offense is going to be really ripe for a tight end to have a big year and have a bunch of catches. And I think he's a guy who's more capable of doing that from a consistency standpoint than Njoku.
And a lot of potential, an awful lot of numbers of tight ends now at this moment on the Browns roster. You don't think they'll keep 4, do you?
Probably not. But I think they like him a lot. And listen, Njoku, I know fans are very frustrated with him. Certainly, he didn't hit it off with freddie-kitchens. And there was the one story about a sideline confrontation between the two of them. I don't think there was a lot of respect there going in either direction. So I understand, given his talent, why this regime has said, let's not give up and let's take a good look at this guy and see what we can get out of him, because there's just so much talent there.
What's interesting about that, that's an opportunity normally when front offices and coaches change, that a guy, if there's a problem between Njoku and anybody, it's easy to unload and just say, hey, he's not our guy. But they've done that, and they've done it with Hollywood Higgins too. So we'll see how that works out. Northeast Factory Direct, East, West, and South. They've got 3 locations plus the great website, northeastfactorydirect.com. You're not going to find lower prices or better quality anywhere in this area. We're going to take a break. We'll come on back in a moment. More Sports and Les-Levine continues with Bud Shaw exclusively on cleveland.com.
Celebrate Naturestone's 30-year anniversary with a free Naturestone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Naturestone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say, it's not just a floor, wow, it's Naturestone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Time for a How Come Quickie. Bud, I think you're going to like this. If it weren't for sports, no one would know who Francis Scott Key was. What do you think?
I like that, Les. It's as usual.
Yeah, short and sweet.
Short, yep.
All right, 216-575-0403. That's the number that was called by BP moments ago. BP, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Good evening, Les and Bud. How you guys doing?
Doing okay. How about
Hey,
you?
BP.
Hey, doing well. And I know you've been talking about the Browns, but I did want to mention the NBA just because we've all been talking so much Browns, and so I just wanted to mention, there's been some interviews today on the radio with Larry Nance Jr. and all that. I'm sure you guys have been watching the Michael Jordan special as well, but I wanted to mention that, I really do hope they figure out a way to play the rest of the NBA season, but I really think they should just focus on the best 8 teams in each conference, and just, I don't know why they're wasting time having the Cavs come in and work out and all that stuff. I want to know what you thought about that. I just think they should just take, I think they could play let's say you start around June 15th and then go to August 15th,
Would you make them Would you make them 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 7?
Yeah, I think the first 2 rounds should be 3 out of 5, and then when you get to the Western Conference Finals and the NBA Finals, go to 7-game series.
Bud, what do you
guys think of that kind of an idea?
Well, I think I get what he's saying from a fan standpoint, but I know from a team standpoint that would never fly. The Cavs are one of those organizations. They fall into that category of feeling like they had overcome some of their growing pains and were on the upswing and wanted to finish the season strong, whether it was a playoff season or not. So I don't know. I mean, how would you do that? Would you limit it to playoff teams only? That would you pay everybody else the rest of the season?
Where they are right now, I would assume.
Well, I think most teams have played 65 games out of 82. So, whatever if that's 80% of the season, then they get, let's say the team like the Cavs, the Knicks, the Phoenix Suns who missed the playoffs, they'll get 80% of their paychecks. I'm sure, they'll be fine with that.
LeBron
with the hassle with living in a bubble city like Orlando, and
LeBron must have something in his LeBron must have something in his contract that calls for even more money if he becomes an MVP again. And I assume if it ended right now, wouldn't he be the front runner for the MVP award?
LeBron would be up there with Giannis, the Greek Freak. It would be between him and Giannis, in my opinion. James Harden would be up there, and even Luka Doncic would be up there. But I would just love to see, because we're all watching this Michael Jordan thing, and I'm starting to almost get a soft spot again for LeBron. Like, geez, LeBron, if he could win a 4th championship, maybe a 5th one, he might, go down, as maybe a strong number 2 to Michael Jordan. I still think Jordan's the greatest champion of all time. I still think, as a Clevelander, that LeBron might be the best player of all time. What do you guys think of that?
I think that you're talking about a whole bunch of a generation of fans who haven't actually seen Michael play on a week-to-week basis or year-to-year basis. I think there's a resurgence in him being the GOAT. Bud, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I was about to say, Les, some of the guys that I've talked to, and not all my age, believe me, have said that they are further reminded or seeing the totality of Jordan's greatness through this series, and maybe hadn't formulated that in their minds and hadn't watched it as it was happening. and feel like maybe the difference between LeBron and him isn't as close as people have been saying. I would say that if we did LeBron's career the same way, in the same kind of bio-doc or whatever your documentary, we might come to BP's conclusion that he's a better player all around, but maybe not just as great a champion.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of the biopic here, BP? What you like it? You don't like it?
You know, it's funny because I was at the game when Jordan hit the shot against the Cavs. I was very close up, you know, in the front seats there. And, I mean, I really, unfortunately, hated Jordan because he really stood in our way. You know, we had a really good team back then. And, you know, we had Doherty and, you know, Ron Harper was still on that team. I never thought we should have traded Ron Harper. I mean, that's when Wayne Embry traded Ron Harper for Danny Ferry, that was like the beginning of the end. I never understood that trade. I know they blamed it on some, you know, extracurricular stuff, but Ron Harper was almost like a poor man's version of Michael Jordan. I mean, he was really good. You know, 20 points a game, and it can dunk. And it's a shame when, you know, to me, they had Mark Price, they had Ron Harper, Doherty, Nance, you know, Hot Rod Williams. They had a really good team. Well, what I was thinking is, what if Scottie Pippen never played for the Bulls? You know, let's say Scottie Pippen, they never made that trade. Let's say he played for the Seattle Supersonics. You think Jordan would have beaten the Cavs then, or what do you think?
Yeah, I never gave thought to it.
Yeah, I don't. So I think Pippen was a fantastic player that a lot of people didn't appreciate how great he was in offensively and defensively.
I'll tell you where the mistake was made. You know, Craig Elo gets ripped. I thought Elo covered Jordan pretty well for the most part on that. But where he made a mistake was with 6 seconds left, he scored and put them up by a point. And he did it in 3 seconds. He left way too much time on the clock for Jordan to do what he did.
Well, that was an amazing play. Lenny Wilkins set up a fantastic out-of-bounds play where Elo wide open.
It worked too quick.
Yeah.
One can I tell you guys?
I always thought Larry Nance should have been guarding Jordan. Like Larry Nance was a jumping jack. He was a great defender. Yeah, he was a small forward, and Jordan was a shooting guard. But I really thought Larry Nance should have been on Jordan for that last shot. What do you think?
Bud, what were you thinking?
I just have a real quick story about the Ron Harper thing. When I first came into town, it was '91, and I knew some of what was going on in Cleveland, but I didn't know the way Cleveland sports writers did. I didn't know the whole in and out of what had happened with the Cavs and Ron Harper. And one of the first things I wrote, I got Lenny Wilkins aside and started talking to him, and I was like, you know, why did that happen? And how'd you guys end up thinking Danny Ferry was going to be such a great player and all this stuff? He shot me some of the dirtiest looks, and basically said to me, in the Ron Harper situation, it's like, I didn't want that to happen. You know, it was like, that wasn't my idea. And so he was still very touchy about that whole situation. And we know that now that there were some other things going on in the organization, but I'm sure he thought to me, what are you bringing that up for? That's not like the thing I want to talk about. Or no Cap player wants to.
BP, we got to move on. Thanks so much for the call. Good to talk to you. Stay safe out there. 216-575-0403. Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp had some things to say about Odell Beckham today. He said on the FS1's Undisputed, there's no doubt in my mind there was something nagging Odell last year. He had surgery, so obviously that was part of the problem. Some of the reason why some of his production dropped off. It does not matter how well Odell performed. It only matters if the quarterback that's throwing the ball, how well does he perform? Is Baker going to take a step from his rookie year, or because his second year was terrible? Odell still can be great. He's technically sound, and he's tremendous right after the catch. He has tremendous hands. But are you surprised that Beckham was named to the Pro Football Focus All-Decade team from 2004?
Well, yeah, I mean, based on what he had done those seasons in New York when he was at his best, no, I guess I'm not surprised. And I do think there's something to what Sharp's saying. I mean, he didn't look like himself last year, but, you know, he also, I don't think, went out of his way to blend in with this quarterback and this offense before camp and during camp. You know, so hopefully that some of that changes. Although we know that the way things are set up right now, he doesn't have the opportunity to really mesh with his new coach
His NFL
Defensive
career
coordinator.
from 2014 to the present, 464 receptions, 6,511 yards, 48 touchdowns. He was a three-time Pro Bowler from 14, 15, and 16, eclipsing 1,000 yards in 5 of his 6 seasons. Last year, 74 receptions, 1,035 yards, 4 touchdowns in 2019 with the Cleveland Browns. We got some highlights of Johnny-Manziel you're not going to believe. Have you seen anything in the last day or two on
What?
Johnny? All right, we'll show that when
No.
we get back. Explore your interests, find a program that puts you on the path to a bright future at Tri-C, offering more than 1,000 courses and over 140 career and technical programs. Go to tri-c.edu, find out more information. We'll come back in a moment. We'll hear what NBC Sports' Chris Sims has to say about an offer the Browns were looking to get Russell Wilson a couple of years ago. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had 2 choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
Well, hello, everyone. Let me tell you a little bit about Browns Football Insider. For only $3.99 a month, you can get text sent right to your phone each day from me, Dan Lobby, Scott Pasco, and Ellis Williams. In addition to that, you'll receive a Football Insider newsletter every day with special things from us, things that you won't see anywhere else on the site. You'll get breaking news, analysis, features, film breakdown, and things like that. Texting us directly gives you a great chance to cut through the clutter of Facebook, Twitter, other social media, and avoid the trolls. Also, it's the only way to get your questions on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. So why should you sign up? Try a 14-day free trial. You can cancel at any time. All it takes is one text, but you won't want to cancel. We have hundreds of subscribers join us over the last year. They love it and have stayed with us. We're seeing the Football Insider community grow every week. And it's only $3.99 a month, which is less than 14 cents a day. What I like most about Football Insider is the opportunity to connect with you one-on-one and really communicate with you. So how can you become a Football Insider? You can click on cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page. Or easier yet, text me at 216-208-3965. Again, that's 216-208-3965.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
Let's check out this date in sports history. May 12th, 1970, Ernie Banks, let's play 2. He hit his 500th home run on this day for the Chicago Cubs. But did you get to see him much at all? Ernie Banks?
I did not. No.
That's one of the, when you talk about interleague play and all that stuff, that's one of the guys I wish I could have seen.
Yeah, same here. I just never got the opportunity to. But I did get to see Johnny-Manziel.
Well, we'll get to Manziel in a minute. I don't know if you heard this, NBC Sports' Chris Sims. Did you hear what he had to say today?
No, I didn't. No.
He said he heard the Seattle Seahawks back in 2018 when Baker-Mayfield was the first pick in the draft. He said the Seahawks had offered the Browns Russell Wilson for their first pick in the 2018 draft. First of all, do you believe that?
Boy,
it's hard to believe.
The way it is hard to believe just because of what he's established there and how good he's still playing. I mean, do we know that what they would have done with that number 1 pick? Would they have picked Mayfield? Is that the
He's not
Yeah.
quoted on that. It's an interesting possibility. It's just that it's 2-3 years down the road, and I'd never even heard a whisper of that.
I've never heard of that either, and that would have been really gutsy for Seattle to do something like that.
Wow. Well, then they'd say, well, Russell Wilson, his hands are too small. He can't make it as an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the best that you could hope for, really, of Baker-Mayfield, if you were the Browns on the other end of that deal, was you're hoping that he turns into Russell Wilson, right?
Well, yeah, but if you can
So,
get Russell Wilson,
you're offered Russell Wilson for the #1 overall pick. I think I would have done it if I were the Browns.
yeah, I agree with that. Johnny-Manziel's in the news again. He posted a video on Instagram. He was in Arizona. It wasn't in Vegas this time because it's basically Vegas is closed. But
Because it's closed. Yeah.
it's closed. It's not his fault that he couldn't be there. So let's take a look at Arizona, one of the Arizona mountains or cliffs. Johnny-Manziel. That's the kind of guy in action you want to see from your quarterback, right? The head of your franchise.
Actually, that kind of, except for what he's wearing, it kind of looked like the Cincinnati Bengals game when he started and lost 30-0.
Right. Absolutely. But that's the guy you want. The guy who doesn't take chances, takes care of himself. That's him. All right, 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Let's take a break. We'll come on back in a moment. We're going to talk a little bit about Francisco Lindor and the contract extension that the Indians have been looking for. Lindor's had that comment by Keith Law on the Bull and Fox show on 92.3 The Fan. We'll take a break. We'll come back in a moment. The Facebook, we'll take a look at the Facebook question of the day and more when we get back. Northeast Factory Direct, 3 great locations plus the website. Lowest price guarantee. If you find something cheaper somewhere else in the next year, he's going to refund your money right on the spot. Alex will do that for you. We'll take a break. More Sports and Les-Levine continues. Sokolowski's University Inn, waiting to hear when they can open, and we'll be the first one to tell you when that is. Place you want to go to, that's for sure, once the restaurants get full going here. Mike and Bernie Sokolowski's University Inn, they established in 1923 when their grandparents did it all, and they're going to try to continue that tradition. We'll come back in a moment. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Your home is your most important investment, and your basement is the go-to part of your home. It's your children's rec room. It's where your family and friends spend time together. It's much more than just a basement. Now is the perfect time to add beauty and value to your home with an authentic NatureStone basement floor. And every NatureStone floor comes with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty. For a limited time, get our exclusive mini pearl stone for as low as $2.99 a square foot plus installation. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's NatureStone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Look at this date in Les-Levine history. 1959, playing Little League ball for the South Euclid Red Sox. Les got 7 hits. Unfortunately, it was during batting practice before the game. But they were hard shots, though, Bud.
Were there any anyone wearing gloves on the field at the time?
Well, it was the small glove era. They used to leave them on the field, if you remember back in those days. You know, you wonder, could Omar Vizquel have made plays with the gloves they used in the 20s? The last 20s.
He's the one guy I think could have. I did a column once on him, on his glove, and it was really undersized, but even by standards of today.
I mean, in Venezuela, he was playing with a newspaper as a baseball glove.
The thing he would do, Les, where he would catch the ball and throw it, and if you had to watch in slow motion to see that the ball never really got into the pocket of the glove.
Never. Have you seen anything?
Almost caught it on the outside, and his hand was quick.
Slapped it down. Have you ever seen anything like him and Robbie Alomar together in all your years covering baseball?
No, I mean, I've said it before that 90s, the decade of the 90s covering Indians baseball was some of the most satisfying, was the most satisfying stretch of sports that I've ever covered in my career.
Right.
And watching those two guys on a nightly basis play their positions was something I'll never have seen before and know that I'll never see again.
I totally agree. Francisco Lindor back in the news today. Keith Law was on Bull and the Fox on 92.3 The Fan talking about the Indians' role in negotiations. According to Law, what I've actually heard is they would like to pay him, but he won't even entertain contract extension offers. Absolutely his right to do that. They've tried to have those conversations. There just hasn't been a negotiation at all. I personally think, knowing him and knowing who his representative is, they just want to go to free agency. My understanding is the team was willing to talk extension with him, and they just said, nope, I'm going to free agency. And I talked about this last night, Bud, that if those in fact are true facts, that Paul Dolan will receive criticism. He'll be labeled cheap again. And sometimes you got to go to the player. And if you want to, first of all, I don't blame him trying to get the most money. But I do blame the fact that the fans assume that it's always the owner's fault, which in this case it's not. It might have been in the Tomey situation for that extra year and the extra amount of money. This one looks like it's all Lindor.
Yeah, and you touched on it. I mean, nobody out there would have a real serious problem with the fact that he wants to see what he's worth in free agency. I think it's his right, but I think if I were advising him, I would say the same thing. So I think, Les, and I know people say that the Indians will take it on the chin if they trade him, but if you don't trade him before, or in the early part of this season, before things get going, you're looking at a situation where your revenue is going to be down. There's no way you're going to pay him an arbitration number for next year, are you?
No, I wouldn't think.
How would you justify that? And most teams that you would be trading with know that you're not going to do that.
Right.
So
well, the Indians start off behind the eight ball here because you quote small market team and all that stuff. But if Lindor's not even going to answer their phone calls or their texts or whatever they do these days, I'm not sure how you can just blame that on Paul Dolan. And I know people criticize me and say I'm pro-management here. Every once in a while, you should be pro-management.
I think if they'd almost have to get a shortstop back in any kind of a deal,
right?
Because I just don't think they have anybody ready to step in. So to make a deal, they'd have to try to fill that position with a legitimate major leaguer, and also get in the trade a guy who can help them win this year.
So
and then you justify it. But there's not going to be fans. Do we know that fans are even coming back this year?
No, doesn't look like. If they play, it doesn't look like fans will be involved at all.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we asked our Facebook participants, is it time for the Indians to move on from Francisco Lindor? Gregory Mees says probably the worst time to get rid of him with everything up in the air and nobody wants to trade players at this point. Aaron Wood says it's a tough one. On one hand, we hate to see him leave, but there's no chance they pay him what he deserves. On the other hand, they want to get all they can for him, but our team's willing to put together a good package deal on what could be a lost season due to the COVID-19. Glenn Berger says it's time the time has arrived to move Lindor. It's been reported by Lindor's agent that he wants to go to free agency, Boston acquired some very good ball players in exchange for Mookie Betts. I hope the Indians can do the same with Lindor. Unfortunately, I see the Yankees as a key player, either in a trade or signing Lindor in free agency. There will only be a couple of teams that will be able to afford him. Dennis Davis, sadly, the best time is before the start of this year in spring training. Make the best deal you can and then move on. It's not the Dolan's fault. Rather, it's MLB's lack of revenue sharing. Grin and bear it. Len Gold, in this horrific economic market, will Lindor find anyone who's going to pay him what he wants? Should he have taken what the Indians offered him? Ed Watkins, let's wait to see how this season plays out, if we have one, that is. So the tide turning a little bit as far as our Facebook subscribers are.
Yeah, I mean, the conventional thinking is that you could get more for him in a deal if a team is going to have him for 2 seasons instead of 1.
Right.
Already that's a season and a half, and we don't know how this one's going to play out. If somebody makes a trade for him now, we could have they could go back to playing, and there could be an outbreak of coronavirus, and the rest of the season gets canceled. So it's hard to imagine a team giving up a whole lot right now under these really unusual circumstances.
Right. Well, we're on the air from 6 until 7 p.m. Nightly, Monday through Friday, including Dave Bacon's show, Weekend Winners, on Friday. And that's 6 to 7 Eastern time. And if you can't reach us at that time, if you're got other things going on, but you want to leave a voicemail for us, it's the voicemail of Truth and Reason, 216-200-6650. Use it any time of the day or night, and we will use it on the air as soon as we can do that. 216-575-0403. Tomorrow night, the D-Man, Dennis Maniloff. Thursday, Hoynesy makes a return. Paul Hoynes, not doing much else. He may as well come here and join us as we talk to the fans about Lindor and everything else on your mind. We'll take a break. We'll come back in a moment. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine. New content is posted each and every day. Back one more time, exclusively powered by cleveland.com.
Your home is your most important investment, and your garage is the entrance to your home. It's where your kids come in from school. It's where your family and friends gather together. It's much more than just a garage. Now is the perfect time to add beauty and value to your home with an authentic NatureStone garage floor. And every NatureStone floor comes with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty. For a limited time, get our exclusive gray brown blend stone for as low as $2.99 a square foot plus installation. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's NatureStone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Thank you.
Let's go to the phones. Bud Shaw with us. Let's go to the other phones, and we'll say hi to Darius, who's in Willoughby. Darius, good evening. Darius.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Les, it's good to hear your voice again. Just wanted to talk Browns again. Man, going into week 1 of the season, looking at that schedule in Baltimore, man, that's going to be a killer.
Well, they wiped them up last year.
True. I hope that we don't do what happened last year when Freddie-Kitchens. In 2018, I think we really had something going there with the play-action passes where Baker-Mayfield, he can zoom, you can throw the ball all the way down the field. And in 2018, that was his strong suit, was play action. And then in 2019, he basically threw out the playbook and grabbed a high school one that he had somewhere in his desk and said, "We'll run with those."
Hey, Darius, can we refer to you as Sports Boy Darius?
Sure.
You got a number of wins for the Browns this year out of 16? Or is it, are they going to play 17?
There's hopeful and then there's realistic. I mean, the only thing that I'm hoping for is that we don't go 0-16 again.
I'll guarantee that for you, Darius.
Wins, optimistically, 10 wins. And realistically, I'd say about 7, 8, or 9 wins, depending on how the season goes. And that Steelers game, the last game of the season,
yep.
Man, that might be a playoff decider right there if the schedule goes right.
All right, Darius, thanks for joining us. Stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Have
an amazing day.
You too.
I don't think he's wrong about I think he's right about the ceiling. Like hopefully Browns fans think 10 wins. I think they wouldn't be too surprised if they go 8-8, 9-7. If they go 7-9 again, I think there'll be some real disappointment in this town.
Well, there's a drop-off. There would have been a drop. It was supposed to be some kind of a drop-off last year. It wasn't supposed to immediately go to the Super Bowl, but 6-10 wasn't the way it was planned.
No, it certainly wasn't. And we didn't know what we didn't know at that point. We thought what we saw, or some of us thought what we saw from Freddie-Kitchens was a guy who was like simpatico with his young quarterback, would only help his growth and development, and had enough experience in those last 5 games that even if he wasn't ready to be an NFL head coach, that offensively he was going to be a real plus for them. And we've talked about this before, Les. I know Pete Smith had some points to make about what happened last year. I also think that when Freddie took over the offense, Baker's rookie year, that he was working out of Todd Haley's playbook, and that's not to say that he didn't make some changes and tweak some things that benefited the personnel he had, but I think he got a little carried away with his offensive geniushood and tried to revamp more than needed to be revamped.
I don't know if I'm spilling beans too early here. 92.3 The Fan asked all of us who work on those shows there to give us the worst take of 2019 that they made last year on the air. And mine was, and they're trying to find tapes of these. For example, if we say we said something in March, they're trying to find it, and they're going to have a 16-team tournament like the NCAA as the worst takes of 2019. And
that sounds like fun.
It's a pretty good promo. And what happened was, in my case, when Freddie-Kitchens came around during training camp out in Berea, and Andy Baskin and I interviewed him for about a half hour or so, and then he took off, went back to practice, and he couldn't have been nicer. And during the break, I said to Andy, what a nice guy. There's no way anybody would ever root against this guy. So that was my worst take of 2019. He came across so much fun at that point. He hadn't lost a game yet at that point.
Well, yeah, and he was also, he was saying all the right things back then. He was saying he didn't care who got the credit. He didn't, it didn't matter to him. He wasn't, going to be possessive about or proprietorship over the offense. He was going to take, and then you could tell early on in those conversations with the offensive coordinator, whose name is escaping me right now.
Who, Todd Haley?
Todd Monken.
Monken.
That there was something terribly wrong there. I mean, that just didn't sound like that there was a lot of good give and take in those offensive game planning.
And I think most of us realize it would not be a good idea for him to fight for play calling at that point in his career. And he was adamant about it because it's like taking away something.
We've talked about bad takes. You have had a consistently good take about rookie head coaches insisting on being their own play callers. And I think you've been across the board, you've considered it too much, a bad move, not the best. And we saw it happen with Shermer.
Yep.
We saw it happen with I don't remember Mangini. No, Mangini had an offensive coordinator. But we've seen it happen now 2 or 3 times. And while there's some case for it, the bigger picture is that these guys need to be head coaches first, and not play call.
And not because because their clock management skills aren't very good. Mine are, so I got to get going.
Okay.
Stay safe, my friend.
All right, I will. And I'll be back in Cleveland next week. And who knows, one of these days I may be in studio with you again.
I'd love to have that happen soon. Thanks, Bud. Bud Shaw did a great job, as always. We'll see him next Tuesday night. Tomorrow night it's Dennis Maniloff. Thursday it's Paul Hoynes. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.